So this video is going to discuss the ablative case and how it's used in Latin and how it's translated in English. Okay, so the ablative case is just going to explain the way in which an action happens. It's going to explain when an action might happen. It's going to explain how an action might happen or why an action might happen. So the first one, when. There are two types of ablatives. They have very similar meanings. The first one is what's called the ablative of time, when, and this one is going to point to a specific time when an action happens. So if you look, currit aestate, he runs in the summer. The specific time is summer, and the second one, currit sexta hora, he runs at the 6th hour. The 6th hour is exactly when it's happening. The second one, use of the ablative, is the ablative of time within which, and it's going to establish a time within which you're going to do an action. I will see you in a few days. In a few days is the time within which this action is happening. Both of these are very specific about the time frame. The next general idea for the ablative is how an action happens. This is the most used form of the ablative, what's called the ablative of means. And it's always going to refer to things. And what you're going to do is you're going to put the noun that you use to do an action in the ablative case with no preposition. So here are a couple of examples. She uses the sword to fight. He uses his hands to talk. And the last one, he is overwhelmed by love. Love here is the tool by which he's being crushed. So whereas he's overwhelmed by love, love is a thing that's used to do an action. If a person is used to do an action, so for example with the passive verb, he is seen by the inhabitants, you're going to use ab, ab, or just the letter a plus the word that's doing the action, in this case inhabitants, in the ablative. So you notice videtur ab incolis, amobatur ab meo amico. Because it's a person who the action is being done by, you use ab. If it's not a person, you're going to use no ab, and you're just going to put the word in the ablative. Okay, the other ablatives that explain how an action happens are the ablative of manner and price. In the first sentence, big anger explains how he's fighting, what the manner in which he's fighting. The same thing with the second one. Great love explains the manner in which he speaks. And notice with all these, you're just using the word with to express the ablative idea in English. Same thing with the ablative of price. Literally, you're saying, I buy a pig with 10 coins, so 10 coins are what you use to do your buying. In English, we just use the word for. I buy a pig for 10 coins. The last use of the ablative is what's called the ablative of cause. It explains why an action happens. And here are a couple examples. Magna ira is the reason that he shouts. He shouts because of great anger. Currit timore, he runs because of his fear. Obviously, with some of these, you could make the argument that the word in the ablative answers a different question and translate it differently. So, for example, he runs, you could say with fear. You could also say he shouts with great anger, and anger would show what he's using to do the action. So hopefully this makes sense. If you look on page 34 and 35 of your book, all of these ablatives are explained. There's also a word champ exercise for you to practice. So if you have further questions, please email me or ask them at the start of class tomorrow.